Drake is living like a video game character for sure. Like the video game character with all the cheats when you unlock all the money in
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah.
unlock all the special items. What else
Yeah.
is there to do? What else is there to do?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yo, what's good, fellas? Welcome back. We're live now. How y'all feeling? How was y'all weekend?
My weekend, I'm not gonna lie. My weekend on Sunday was in WeWork, planning for the week. I have this mentality. My girlfriend and I, we try to have one day a week where we zone in and try to essentially prepare and attack the week. Saying because I find that at this stage that everybody, if you go into the week without a plan, everybody's attacking you with whatever their plan is. So on Sunday, I was on WeWork, and then Saturday, just regular chilling and stuff with friends and just hanging out.
My weekend was chill, bro. I didn't do much of anything. Yeah, I was chilling at the crib, cleaning up, just doing stuff around the house. So for the first time in a while, doing nothing. So that was pretty much it.
That don't even make sense. Dre doing nothing. That don't even make sense. You're the most restless person I know. That's good for you though. I'm happy. Take a break, bro.
Yeah.
It's needed though.
You deserve it. You actually deserve it though.
Yeah, I needed it. I've been on the go.
Need more too.
The last couple of weeks. So honestly, I feel like I haven't been getting enough sleep, man. I need to get more sleep. How many hours of sleep y'all be averaging a night?
Okay, so look, first things first. I got everybody here at Aura Ring, so let's address that. Okay, look, everybody. I'm gonna make this public. I need y'all to commit to getting the subscription plan for Aura Ring so that we can so that y'all can join circles. I have circles, including my friends, and then also my family. In which case, we can see each other's sleep habits, etc. and whatnot. I advise y'all. I'm not sure if y'all have a subscription or not, but one of the groups is called Health as Well. and yeah, but as far as how much sleep I get, I'll put it like this. It does vary, but I shoot to sleep 8 to 9 hours. That's where I shoot to sleep, primarily because of my sleep scores indicating when I have a sleep score of maybe 80 or above, like my days are usually really great. And usually that's just tied to just having a longer amount of sleep, getting a longer opportunity to sleep, not drinking alcohol before you sleep, etc., things like that. But some days, like this weekend, I had slept for 2 hours, woke up, and it just kept going. I just kept going. But I don't recommend that. But my aim and goal would be to be a 90 sleep score. But right now, I think the 80 at least is where I like to go. And usually it's hours.
Yeah. I definitely echo that. I try to get 8 hours of sleep, but
it's hard. It's hard. You know what it is? I'm a night owl.
Same.
So that's why
I'm a night owl with early morning aspirations.
I know. Right.
I like to stay up late and I like to get up early, but that shit does not coincide together. Like you cannot do both.
That's why I asked that.
Like eventually you're gonna crash. What about you, Brylan? What's your routine looking like these days?
I'm gonna keep it a stack. I nowadays I definitely prefer to be in bed early. That doesn't always happen because I get caught up in a TV show, cleaning, and there's that. But typically, if I'm being honest, I'm probably like just hearing this out loud. Probably I would say 5 to 7 hours. I think it's sometimes
you be up
it's
at
just
4:30 and shit.
Yeah.
I be up at. I think Brylan be up at disrespectful hours, bro.
Wow, that's way too that's way too early.
Nah, but let me keep it a stack with you, bro. Like I definitely recommend for the early risers out there to try this. But I've been getting up literally at 5 a.m. and then I go do hot yoga, bro.
Hot yoga is amazing. I'm not gonna lie, that will have you on a different frequency. It will have you on a different frequency, and it's harder than people think. If you've never done it before, don't underestimate. But
I'm gonna take it a step further, bro. You got to do the hot. So they had this sculpt class, and so you got to do hot yoga plus lift weights.
I wouldn't attend. I'm not attending.
I ain't even. Wait, and this is all at 5 a.m.?
I specifically go at 6, but
Ah.
5 and 6. That's when I do my own little thing. So
That's why you tired. That's why you tired so early, bro.
yeah, bro.
But I feel, hey, you know what though? I can't knock anything health related, especially yoga. I can tell you hot yoga I was introduced to while me and Dre were living in Berkeley, California, and I went into it. And I'm not gonna lie, not because me and Dre used to be at the gym all the time. We was bulky. We've had trainers. We didn't put work in, but that yoga stuff was different. That yoga stuff was different, man. And
Let me ask this though. I want to ask this. When it comes to your health, what practices do you currently have?
a ton for me. I
Okay.
don't know about y'all, but a ton for me. And yeah, a ton for me because without getting into too many details, in my family life, there's been a lot of my close ones that have struggled with health, both physical health and also mental health. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, those were shocks, you know what I'm saying? Like shocks to my system. And it makes me, I do feel like I do a lot for my health, you know what I'm saying? And then I try to extend that, for example, sending it out to all my friends and people I care about, Aura rings, etc. Because that's really how my heart feels about my health. But to get specific, I'll say this. I'll start with regular blood testing. So I do regular doctor visits, but I do my own private blood testing. The reason I've been doing this since 2016. And so is that I have a record of all of my hormones over time. And what that has done is it's allowed me to see patterns but also it helps me when I go talk to doctors because you have the paperwork, etc. And sometimes you might have an issue, like maybe you have insomnia or something, and you might find out that maybe you have hyperthyroid, but you would never find that out because a lot of there's a lot of different things that I find that with a lot of things health related, symptoms can mean a lot of different things. And I once read that doctors, if you're talking to a stomach doctor, they'll say you have a stomach issue. If you're talking to this type of doctor, they'll say you have that issue, etc. And sometimes, so I'm a proactive person. So I work out. I do work out in the mornings around the time that you work out, Brylan, probably 7 cardio and then just basic weights. I don't do as hard as I used to. And then, but yeah, I have a private doctor blood work pretty much quarterly, and I just keep records of that. And then, yeah, Aura rings. I don't Apple Watches that much. I have one, but I've gifted friends Apple Watches. I know I think you guys all have one of those too. I think that's a good thing.
I think similar to Rodney, I do regular blood work as well, like quarterly. Like I
Mhm.
do it all the time. Like I'm
Yeah.
definitely measuring a lot of different things there. And then on a daily basis, I work out every day. And then I just watch what I eat. That is really what it comes down to. I'm just really big on what I consume. So I don't do a bunch of processed sugar shit. I don't do a bunch of stuff like high saturated fats in it. I'm just like really conscious about what I'm eating. And I noticed like that definitely has like impacts on just how I'm feeling throughout the day. You know what I'm
For
saying?
sure.
Like just not eating too heavy. I do a lot of intermittent fasting as well. So I don't eat breakfast. Usually,
Yeah,
and if I do, it's gonna be something incredibly light.
that's a good one.
I just started
coffee.
fasting. I just started
Like that.
doing that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
How's it been for you?
Bro, I have felt like a drastic change, man. Like
Energy?
I feel definitely I feel more energetic. I also
Yeah.
feel like a lot more clear-minded, and I feel the thing about it is like from a weight perspective, you would probably look at me and be like, "You ain't heavy,"
Yeah,
but I felt heavy. And then I
Yeah.
started doing that in my yoga.
yeah.
Now I feel light.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's one thing about yoga. You will feel light. That joint
Yeah.
I feel like I had no body. I felt like I was just floating. I didn't have a body. But yeah, Dre, like Dre said though, this is not an ad, but like Dre said, try to avoid certain things. Look, we're in high performance positions. I'm drinking right now, no sugar, hydration drink. Look, like I'm Dre is 100% like on that. Do that. But before we hop into some of these really interesting topics, we wanted to first start off with some very unfortunate series of events, and these are real world events, but that we were able to see primarily because, or at least for me, and so there is a state of war that is going on in Israel. There were some surprise attacks on Israel firing rockets into cities, and there has been a death toll of over 1,500 people, and hopefully we don't see any more casualties. And that way, it stirred up a lot of things that have been going on. But what I personally want to say from the bottom of my heart is that I hope that this can de-escalate sooner, because I personally was seeing some very heartbreaking things on my feed, and it's sad to see, and it's a human issue. And prayers seriously to anybody that was affected, especially the innocent. And just so y'all know, a lot of schools and businesses, et cetera, in the country have been forced to take shelter, et cetera, and it's important.
Yeah, yeah, I don't have any much more to add on that one. I don't really know the full details of the conflict, other than
I was
it's
just
been
about to say
happening.
that.
It's been
Yeah.
happening for a long time. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm not as informed on either side, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. for sure.
I did want to add this perspective though, because today I was reading the Pomp's recent newsletter, and he was specifically talking about how Gen Z, specifically similar to a few past generations, is a unique generation because they've primarily grown up in a like inflationary economy, especially thinking about most of them started to come into adulthood of right around the pandemic. And now you had the financial crisis and all that. And he specifically was talking about some research, how research has shown that when banks and their people expect inflation to continue to go higher, typically that leads to inflationary outcomes. So like business owners, if they expect inflation, they'll actually start to raise their price. And so he was talking about like how we're getting stuck in this cycle, this perpetual cycle of inflation from a psychological standpoint with the younger generations coming up behind, but also where the world is going. And he specifically called out this very interesting dynamic when it comes to chaos, like in war, which is relevant to the conflict that is happening in Israel right now. Yeah. But what he said was, at the same time that central bankers are trying to manage the economy, which is a nearly impossible task by itself, they will also have to be cognizant of the increasing chaos and conflict around the world. For example, the United States is being forced to drastically increase our national debt in response to our geopolitical strategy. Here's how it works. War breaks out somewhere in the world. Other nations ask the U.S. for weapons and money. The U.S. gives the weapons and money to other nations. Then the U.S. begins to run low on weapons and money. More war breaks out globally because the U.S. is weakened. Other nations ask the U.S. for weapons and money. The cycle repeats. As the U.S. gets weaker and the world becomes more chaotic, we are forced to increase our national debt at a furious pace in order to pay for all the weapons and money we are giving everyone. You can say this is happening with the conflict in Ukraine already. We've already deployed $500 billion, and some will say $1 trillion. But also he was talking about how this is starting to tie back into what's happening in Israel. And what he said is, this was very interesting, where he was talking about there's also potential conflicts that could kick off in Taiwan. And then he also said the U.S. is in a place where they can't fund every war on earth. And so he started talking about this global game of chess that China is playing, because they don't necessarily have to be in direct conflict with the U.S. to get a victory over us.
Yeah.
So basically, so it's this theory, if I'm understanding, like basically our adversaries like China, maybe even Russia too, perhaps, are like essentially spinning up these like proxy wars with the U.S. through other countries and other means
to economically destabilize us.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'll say this. It's very plausible. Because there's a lot of different attacks on the United States in multiple different ways. And a lot of them are not, like Dre said, it's not like a direct attack coming from, but it's more of a strategic warlike strategy, in which case they're not directly doing anything per se, but they are. And that does reinforce some of the things that I personally believe about the United States, is that I really do believe that a lot of our resources, as much as we can, be brought to the places in America. First things first, family first, essentially, is the way I look at it. Because, like, for example, I don't want to get too much into it, but I had there was a health scare with one of my loved ones, and we're brand new. Everything's brand new, but the infrastructures are not where the schools are not where they should be. the hospitals are not where they should be, certain things. And it does feel when we do these things because we want to stand up for the right thing, at the same time, it is this interesting dynamic where we also have people who are really in dire need inside of our own country, but they're not dealing with war. But they're not dealing with war, and I think that's what people are most. They're not dealing with direct attacks, and I think that's maybe where some people are seeing it. And by the way, regarding this, when things like these happen, a lot of stuff comes on our feeds. For example, the first tweet I saw was like, yeah, we think this is a 10% chance of war. Mind you, that may not have no factual basis, but the fact that was like my first tweet and had a lot of engagement, that does destabilize a lot of things. And that does make people operate differently within the world. And there's effects to that. On the brighter side, as far as building and hopefully building towards a better future, look, 3 days ago, Amazon announced that they are launching their first satellite prototypes. They're currently it's a project called Cooper, I think.
Yeah.
Kuiper, for those that want to search it. And they want to build a network of 3,200 satellites. They're essentially trying to get into the game of offering space internet. And there's probably some other things too. It's probably not just that. If I think about long term, they're getting into the game of that. But to give you guys some relativity, I just want to let you guys know that they are they're starting to launch about 3,200 satellites, and Starlink, as of right now, has 5,000 current satellites in orbit, and their goal is to do 42,000, and which will basically give the entire world accessibility via Starlinks. So it's no surprise there. But what do you guys think about that move by Amazon and like where maybe even internet and space is going? Because it seems like there's some connections there.
I'm surprised they haven't launched something like this a while ago, but perhaps I can assume like probably what some of the reasons why they haven't. And I'm only thinking about this in this regard because I used to work for an internet service provider a long time ago. So I'm pretty abreast on like how this space has evolved over time. And there's been Facebook, for example, has had projects that they've killed off to try to provide open access to internet. Google did the same thing. I think Google's was like Project Loom or something like that. Like they had a project where they were trying to give open internet.
I remember that.
To the developing world, and Facebook was trying to do the same thing. So this idea of trying to give open and available access to internet has been like on the minds of a lot of big companies for a while.
Yeah.
Primarily because they are trying to figure out how to get their product to these people. Like Facebook's trying to figure out how do we get more people to use Facebook?
Of course.
And if they have the internet, they can use Facebook, right?
Yeah. They don't have the internet. If they can't access our products, then
right. So like it was always from that perspective. But I think what SpaceX did with Starlink seems was a forcing function for other folks in the space. Amazon, I'm sure there's other people too that are doing it. I'm sure it's not just those providers that'll be doing it. But I think generally it makes sense. I think first of all, to give everybody here on Earth like access to internet. But I think beyond that, it is going to help accelerate the things that are going to be happening in space. And I think that's where it's really interesting, because if you're going to be in space, you need internet, right? So you need really strong. You really need really strong internet at that. Like, you don't want no dead zones in space.
You don't want me disconnected.
You don't want that shit to drop off and trying to reconnect and reboot in space. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see, just like any new technology and any new infrastructure, right? Like developers, entrepreneurs, they see it and they start building. It enables a new level of building, right? Like the iPhone enabled us to do things that we couldn't do with just the computer, the desktop computer, right? So now there's the question, okay, what does it look like if you have space internet, right? If everybody in any corner of the earth had access to internet, what does that actually look like? Then what does it look like if you get super fast internet while you're in space, while you're traveling up to space, while you're flying? So I think there's a lot of directions that can go into. So I'm super excited to see like what innovations come from it. And obviously with AWS being one of the largest cloud providers, I think they're going to really force builders to build. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Brylan, I have a specific question for you.
Yeah.
Should the cell phone providers be worried? Because right now, I'll give you like what it seems to me is that there's all different network coverages, and they all own different amounts of networks or whatever across the nation. And for their primary thing is you're paying for the phone. You know what I'm saying? Because the phone is very expensive for the iPhone is like damn near $2,000, right?
Yeah.
So most people they're not just coming out the gate buying the new phone straight up. But just in general, though, do you think the cellular networks should be concerned, and also ISPs? Because it almost seems like if they don't do some of these things, that Amazon and Starlink, like what do they do?
Yeah, I think Brylan dropped off for a little bit. He might hop back on, but yeah, I'll open it up. I actually don't think they should necessarily be concerned, only because
Okay.
they're at the core of a lot of the shit that's taking place. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna get their money. You know what I'm saying? Whether you technically have Verizon service or not, or AT&T service or not, a lot of the times the information that gets transmitted in order to even give you access to internet, or even in order to even translate information, a lot of times goes through the infrastructure that a lot of these big telecommunication companies own.
It
Right?
does.
So
It does.
I think in order for them to really be concerned, we would have to really redo communications from the ground up. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, internet itself is still a physical thing, even if it's wireless, right? And those cables, those fiber optic cables, the information and physical internet travels through.
Well, that will always be necessary. That will always be necessary. That will always be necessary.
It's always necessary, and those are owned by the big, large telecommunication companies.
Well, I get maybe more of my question is like what Amazon doing the equivalent of how ChatGPT takes away some people looking for answers on Google in some ways.
So does it? Maybe not. So you're saying, does it take away a use case from like another product?
More so, like I know that the infrastructure has to exist and it will exist for sure. But as far as like the current way that they're doing their business, because you and I noticed this, right? And this was interesting. How there's all these different cell networks now. There's the major ones, the top 5 ones: AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, etc. But even T-Mobile came with Sprint. I'm noticing that you can, for example, like I was looking at plans, and you can buy unlimited plans for $20-$30 a month that are backed by these same networks. And so that I don't know what to take from that, other than I don't know what to take from that, because in my mind I'm like, so for example, I went to a plaza the other day, and there was some company by Verizon. It wasn't a Verizon authorized seller. It was just a provider by Verizon. And so I was thinking in my mind, I have Verizon and I'm paying $100 and something a month can I buy my phone outright? But then there's this plan that's saying they're backed by Verizon. Is there something I'm missing that's $20 and it's saying it's $20 a month? Why should I be loyal to Verizon then? If I can get the $20 a month version, unless there's something that I'm potentially missing. You know what I'm saying? So basically what I'm saying is that in regards to our devices, maybe more, will they have to address those changes, or will there be challenges in the future about how they make money? Because I believe the infrastructure you can't get rid of. Like, those are physical infrastructures. And they're going to be needed, but will they have to repurpose it to make money or something like that?
Right now, they make money. I would say any internet service provider makes money through data, right? They're an infrastructure and they're a data transfer business. That is the business model. And so whatever the end point is can always change. Like, people are not subscribing to cable as much, for example, right? So the business model behind monetizing that specific data set is probably dying. But on the flip side of that, people are accessing streaming, right? So the business model in terms of streaming data is up now. So I think the business still stays the same for a lot of these big companies. But you're right, though. I do think the business model might shift, but it's still a data business, just how the data gets transferred. And the other thing I'll say, too, is we talked about this before about Microsoft and how Microsoft was successfully sued by the government for antitrust. The same thing actually happened to AT&T, by the way. So like, these telecommunication companies are massive and monopolistic, right? Like, they're that big. And so
only a few players.
I don't think there's like any immediate threat.
Not immediate.
But hell, who knows what Elon is doing with SpaceX? He might
immediate. Definitely not immediate. There's no way there's an immediate threat. There's absolutely. I agree with you on that. There's no way there's an immediate threat. But I wonder,
So,
like
so
5, 10
on that
years,
point though,
you can get a gig a second off of.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead,
hold on.
Brylan.
Go ahead, Brylan.
now what I was gonna say is like on that point though, around what is Elon doing, I found this very interesting. So what SpaceX did was they formed a partnership, well, one of the first partnerships with T-Mobile, and
Smart.
then yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I see what they're
yeah,
doing.
and so they're already starting to.
Oh,
It looks like they're starting to look at doing that with a few other providers as well. AT&T is trying to block it. It looks like, but
Brylan,
yeah,
They have
I
to
ask you,
partner, bro.
Brylan,
This shit
can
is
I,
expensive. The
Brylan, can I
physical
ask you a question?
infrastructure to rebuild it is just, it's not. It's astronomical.
Brylan, can I ask you a question?
it's cracking.
Again, an interesting question. Out of all the carriers, and also keep in mind, I'm thinking about brand too and stuff like that. Like in my mind, I think Delta and I think Verizon. You know what I'm saying? But that's obviously not the case. For example, in real life. Now you add this information when you're saying Starlink. You know what I'm saying, did a partnership with T-Mobile. That kind of changes why that might have happened, and gave me a little bit of maybe a slight closure on that loop. Because I was wondering why T-Mobile, out of all the things that I feel like Delta could have partnered with anybody, but if
Yeah.
T-Mobile partnered with Starlink, and Starlink it has a network right now of 5,000 suborbit satellites, then when you're in a flight, you right next to them, you right next to the internet.
Yeah. Now, and so this is the interesting thing I think people don't usually talk about when it comes to space is that like today's innovations and breakthroughs primarily have been driven by technology, but the impact technology has had on costs. And so if you think about like back in the day, they spent billions of dollars to build satellites. And at the same time, they had to be able to obviously get the biggest bang for their buck. So that's in terms of coverage. And so this is important just because that pushed them into the deep parts of space, where when SpaceX came around and changed the economics of space, because now what it used to cost to fly to space is now cut in 10 to 100x, because the fact that you can reuse certain components, that changed shit. And so what that changed was specifically the willingness for folks to be able to say, okay, we may not have the best satellite technology because we're not investing all that crazy money, but we can actually get more of these at a cheaper price into space. And so now instead of it being about how wide one can be, it's about how connected they are. Like, so do you see the strategy that, yes,
I see,
it literally, so it went from a single standalone kind of product to the product became the network. That's like that shift in thinking is so important when it comes to space, because that's what's enabling the Starlinks, the Amazons, like you and other players who are going to continue to pop up. That's
I'm
small
not gonna lie.
change.
You basically, in so many words, said everybody in the world is technically going to be connected.
Oh, bro,
like everybody in the world.
Yes.
But like it's like telepath, damn near. Especially when you
you
think about
you're gonna need
Facebook's
that.
new stuff.
You're gonna need that with Neuralink. Shit. You need
Yeah.
when your shit gets implanted, bro. When you think about where we're going with self-driving cars, think about where we're going with self-operating robots like the humanoids that we've talked about before. Think about where we're going with brain chips, like I just said, with Neuralink. Like we're gonna need more high-speed bandwidth internet, and we're gonna need that shit on demand everywhere. Broad coverage, backup, like all of that shit.
Reliability.
You're not gonna want to be in a self-driving car going 70 miles down the highway and your shit just get disconnected.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
You
was
know,
funny.
like,
That was funny. That was funny. When I was on the Starlink site, so they have multiple different options, right? And mind you, literally, I was just telling y'all I couldn't buy one. Maybe like 8 months. Like it wasn't that long ago. I couldn't buy one, so they just put them out on the low because I didn't see it. But they have this one option. And it's the ultra performance option. You can add Wi-Fi to any car, and it's built for all conditions and whatever. And all of America has coverage. And I'm like, and the speeds are up to, I think they're like top speed, like almost damn near business level speeds. And I'm like,
wait, so it's a satellite? It's a satellite you add to the.
You got to see it. It's a panel. It's like a panel. Like, you know how Solar City has those panels?
Yeah.
It's like a panel. So it's like a panel. Yeah. It's like a panel.
Wow.
So if your car didn't have, Wi-Fi, mind you, my girlfriend Ryan told me that some cars do come with Wi-Fi now, which I did not
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I know it is wild. Like we come a long way. But like to be able to augment a car and put that level of, because you can have a Wi-Fi cellular network, but we know those hotspots. If they was really
Yeah.
strong and reliable, everybody would still have one. But they're talking about high performance under all conditions, and you can install it on top of your car or wherever, and
Wow.
you could just and again, also there's the Starlink Roam where you can have it where if you it's for nomads, they say, wherever you want. If you want to go here, go here. And it's just, that's unbelievable. I'm not gonna lie to you. So if Amazon is trying to do anything like that, I'm looking forward to that too. But like y'all said, this has become a very intriguing conversation based on everything y'all said.
Let's make it a little bit more intriguing, because hold up. This is
Sure.
wild that what I just noticed what you were speaking of, because I wasn't even thinking of the fucking car,
Mhm.
is, bro, we just got abundant connectivity. That is wild. Abundant
It's not clear.
connectivity.
Yes. And everybody don't know. Everybody doesn't.
But let's add this to the equation.
They have-
We've
they have-
already
Sorry.
talked about like the abundance of like intelligence. So you got abundance of connectivity, abundance of intelligence. There's an
Yeah.
abundance of energy coming just in
Yeah.
terms of like fusion.
Yeah.
What does the world look like when all
I'm
that
telling you.
abundance is there?
I'm telling you, I've often thought, and I'm gonna sound crazy, I think to some people, or probably to most people, I think we're gonna be extremely abundant as far as even with finance, even with money. I think I don't know how I do, and also I believe it will be within our lifetimes. I just don't know. I think it will be within our lifetimes, because what I've noticed is that it's typically the fact that we have a lot of distractions in the world, and also we haven't used all the talent in our world. And for example, just being able to increase access of certain, like for me, right? I'm a product of Google and PayPal. Saying if those things were not created, you would not have me right now on a podcast. And I see multiple different things. For example, these like services, like right now I'm on a Starlink site. They have it for yachts. You could put it on your yacht. You know what I'm saying? You could put I like it's but the thing is that these things are happening so quickly that I don't think people have. The reason why I say it's going to be in our lifetime is because it's just a matter of time before people start to realize, and certain things will accelerate that. You know what I'm saying, for example, if Starlink had a financial incentive for example, like a franchise type of system, let's just say, generally speaking, you know what I'm saying? That would make people be like, oh, let me buy a bunch of this infrastructure and put it in hot places, or put it in places that I think is necessary, etc. Like it becomes this thing where, and then also the cars thing. I'll show you guys. It's crazy, but yeah, we're talking about real futuristic stuff. But yes, my thing is, I do think money and a lot of things will be highly abundant within our lifetimes, and I'm almost positive of that. I'm almost positive of that. It's just because I just think that right now there are a lot of human relations that need to be resolved. And I think that's human relations. A lot of human, like that part, just human affairs. Those are the things that, I won't say stifle, because it comes with a negative connotation, but they slow down the progress of where we're ultimately headed. But
I think what I'm really most impressed by, and we can move on after this, other than like the technology itself, because satellite internet is not like a new, like I said, it's not new. None of this is new. This has been around for a long time.
Yes.
You could have always bought like a satellite and got internet. Like that's not anything new there. But what I'm most impressed by, I would say, is the SpaceX team and their ability to spin up like these side businesses in order to fund the broader mission that they're going after. Like spinning up space internet was not a core part of the plan of getting to Mars and like building reusable rockets. It's almost like they needed to create this business in order to generate more money, in addition to the other areas that they've been able to go into. But like the actual business that SpaceX has been able to build from this satellite internet, and the future businesses that they're going to be able to build from it, I think is remarkable. And I think that is going to further accelerate what they're going to do in terms of building rockets that get us to Mars, right? Because if they have a more sustainable business model, they can invest those profits and actually build a longer term sustainable company.
Hold on,
I think
this Elon Bro, Elon Musk is about to have $2 trillion
Yes.
companies, bro.
Yes.
No,
And I think
I
that's
kid you
without
not.
doubt.
bro. And so I think that's worth
Without doubt.
noting, right? Like the internet and all of that is
Without
fine
doubt.
and dandy,
Yeah,
but I
without
think
doubt.
when you zoom out for a second and you look at what Elon is actually building from a business standpoint, I think it's remarkable. We're gonna build reusable rockets, and now we need to build other businesses to do this shit.
Well,
And those
well,
need to be big.
Space has become a
too.
platform.
but
Exactly.
look, right, exactly. But
Yeah.
also, I want to point out for the listeners something that, and Dre, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're essentially saying that, look, Starlink is a side business. Just think about that. That's a side business to the main company. Like it's a side business. You know what I'm saying? With extreme value. You know what I'm saying? And they've offered. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Because me and Brylan was talking, and I was telling him that I was reading the Elon book, and without going to, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but he made it very clear that his mission, his objective, he made it abundantly clear to every single company. His objection is to get to Mars before he dies. Whether or not that happens or not, I don't know. He doesn't know. I don't even know if he believes it can happen, but it doesn't matter whether or not it can happen. But he believes it. He tells his whole team that. And so anything that SpaceX does that's outside of like literally the rocket, like outside of the rocket actually traveling to Mars, from Earth to Mars, is all a side business. It's all in service of literally trying to achieve that one mission, that one objective.
I had a few things, and these I just find very interesting because like I was not that aware of it. But do y'all know how many folks globally suffer from malaria?
From what?
Do you know how many folks suffer from malaria globally?
I said billion.
Probably a lot.
I just thought a random number.
Isn't the Bill Gates Foundation or something like that? Isn't that something that they're focused on?
I do feel like that is something they're focused on. And so actually it's 250 million. Yeah, and
that's not that much. It's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah,
I mean,
but 95% of those. So hold on, this is the crazy thing. 95% of those are in Africa, and 80% of those are kids under 5.
That's terrible.
What percentage of that leads? What percentage of that leads to death? Do you know?
Yeah, actually, it is only. It looks like only 5.
So they need health.
A very small percentage. Actually. So 619,000 people die from it, and 96% of that are in Africa.
I see. It's okay.
Yeah,
but I'm not trying to minimize it. But just
no, we just put in some context. And so the thing that recently happened, and I just wanted to hit on this, was the World Health Organization actually just announced a second vaccine for malaria, and this isn't the first one. The first one kind of came out a few years ago, but the issue with that is it hasn't been able to scale. So it only they're only able to produce like 8 million doses a year. Where with this new vaccine, they're going to be able to produce upwards of 200 million. Hopefully, starting.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
So basically, it's like this is an opportunity to potentially eradicate.
That change. Honestly, things like that are incredible.
Or at least get this to everybody who needs it. Maybe not eradicate it, but get it to everybody who needs it. And
it's incredible because one, it's just we have that. We don't worry about that here. We don't worry about that here. So it's incredible from the standpoint of the world and being a world citizen or international citizen. That's incredible. And it also makes me feel very optimistic because I just think back to even in America when there was a lot of things that people were dying. Like the population in America when it first started wasn't that big, and people were dying of all different types of things, etc. And we made a lot of progress. And now we could do better, but we have a pretty good infrastructure. Kids are going to make it. There's some things that we want to help with, but I do think that's a big deal. And kids are the future, and I think kids are the future and stuff. It's not just kids though, of course, but that's big. I'm super excited about that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
Go ahead. I have a crazy question here. Just as a thought. Do you think it's in the best interest? I don't know in the best interest of who, but just in the best interest of someone to prevent us from eradicating a ton of infectious diseases that kill? Because I think it's obvious that we all agree that what quantum computing, with AI, and unlimited energy that we are on the brink of being able to spin up, we can pretty much solve any disease, right? This is no longer a matter of like
Yes.
technology existing. This is just a matter of like our will and effort that we choose to apply to the problem.
hmm
But I'm wondering now, like all these like sub industries that exist from these diseases, especially like the really infectious ones they really kill. Let's say cancer, for example.
hmm
Like that's a massive market in terms of like
Yes.
just hearing for
Yes.
cancer.
It's extremely expensive. Extremely
It's
expensive.
extremely expensive. So I'm wondering, although like this technology is here and we're super optimistic about its capabilities and what it can do, I'm wondering if we're going to hit this point where it's just not in the best interest for those problems to be solved because the
Yes.
business model doesn't support
Mhm.
it being solved. What is
Right.
cancer? What does the world of healthcare
I
look
think-
like if
Mhm.
cancer is solved?
Okay, go ahead, Brylan. You go first.
So what I was going to say to that is it's crazy that you even bring this up because I'm actually reading this book on the whole biotech space, and it's called Building Backwards. I recommend it for anybody that's interested in just learning about that space. But typically the way things happen is biotechs typically get things to the early phases. So phase 1, phase 2 of clinicals. And then big pharma comes in and is actually the one that gets that drug or therapeutic to the market. Right.
Mm.
And so the way they both make decisions is different. Right. Because big pharma has to make sure that, hey, I got 10 years to sell this drug. I got to be able to get it to the right market and hopefully they buy it so I can get my rate of return. Where for the biotech, they're just, hey, can we get an acquisition? That's what success is. And the reason why I say this is I think I can definitely see a misalignment of that market happening. And where it's going to happen is I could see the biotech folks who are already starting to explore things like AlphaFold and different ways of using those different technologies to come up with this. Because at the end of the day, the way I could see it trickling down is if big pharma, they really do make decisions like that. If there is a market where they can
Right.
make some money,
Mhm.
they have to recoup their investment. And so I don't know if capitalism is set up for eradication to exist. Same way I've recently heard capitalism isn't set up for a lot of clean tech solutions to exist. And yeah, I don't know. I think the economics is just different.
Mm.
Here's what I think. Dre, if Dre, I just want to make sure I understand your point before. I think it sounds like your point is that we have this new technology that can eradicate, and we have it now, and if we wanted to, we could get that going, especially with the new developments. And you're just essentially saying, hey, that's great, but you're a little skeptical because of the nature of the business of business, and I would say you're 100% right in your skepticism. The breakthroughs are optimistic and they're great, but the real celebrations are going to be the distributions. And usually that's where the challenges come into play, because usually there are either prior players or other people involved. They can even be political players, not even business, that are involved in these things. For example, I recently saw an article about Walmart saying they've seen ever since the skyrocketing of Ozempic, which is a drug that helps people with diabetes manage their weight, but also just in general is huge in Los Angeles and in just places where there's entertainment. And Walmart is seeing actual drops in sales of sugary foods and certain things because this drug, for example, this one shot that you take per day reduces your cravings for alcohol, reduces your cravings for food, certain sugary foods, etc. And that actually, it's interesting because on one hand, there was this, we don't have enough of that Ozempic for people on diabetes, et cetera, because people started to look like, oh, okay, this can also be used for like just weight loss purposes, period. Not just, so there was a shortage, but now that they're catching up with that, they're also seeing this is all ecosystem. And so it's in some ways, Walmart was maybe not intentionally was benefiting off of dysfunction. People not being able to control their sugar cravings or not be able to drinking alcohol and stuff like that. And this drug, and here's the thing, no drugs without side effects. You can, or whatever. But like Dre said earlier in the podcast about health, not like less sugar, non-processed foods, etc. And there is a lot of big business around all those things. When we think about what Brylan just said, yeah, for sure, I see challenges. I see challenges. I just don't. But here's what I do believe. I do believe that that I don't know the answer to skirt around the challenges, but I believe there is a way to skirt around them eventually. I just don't know how do you do it, and that's usually kind of the thing. Like, yeah, and even maybe, yeah,
because I think disease, beyond the business side of it, I think disease in general serves as like a population, like a form of population control. And
politics.
so, no, population control, meaning if we didn't have diseases, you would have more people living longer lives and there would be more people, right? And if there's more people and there are more people living longer lives, then you have more people pulling our resources, right? You need more food, you need more electricity, you need more, you need much more of a lot of stuff, right? If you have, if you have less people, I'm just giving my point. I'm not, this isn't a counter to what you said. I'm just saying in general, I just think disease is a form of population control. It does help keep the numbers balanced. It does help balance out the numbers in a way. And so, again, in a world where we can solve, in a world where we can solve unlimited disease, I think that brings the question of how do you maintain that? How do you maintain that population control? Because you got so many countries right now, at least in the US, we don't have this problem because we're lucky in the US. But if you go to some other developing countries, there's already resource constraints. There's already a lack of food. There's already a lack of clean water. There's already a lack of great healthcare. There's already a lack of that stuff. And what does it look like when you got 3 or 4x the number of populated people trying to fight for those same resources? I don't have the answer to it.
It's complex.
Interesting game theory to play out.
Yeah, it's complex. It's complex. But I ultimately, and I just want to clarify what I meant by political though is that when I think about population control, I think my mind thinks there are people that are maybe government bodies or people who are maybe influencing those things, not necessarily individuals.
For sure.
Yeah. But I think you're spot on with but here's the thing. That's why I think the challenge usually is doing it in a way where it can't be stopped. And that's usually the hard part. But for example, when you look at like a completely different example, but it's a more of an analogy. You can really, like for example, Uber. It was very hard to stop them given the fact of the nature of the business. You could say we can ban Uber, but how do you prevent somebody from bringing their phone in the car and then picking up somebody on the street? I'm saying, like, how do you prevent that per se? But I can see how before a smartphone, that was easy to regulate. That was easy not to. So basically what I'm saying is that there's a possibility that, luckily, the good part is that hopefully that technology that Brylan speaks of works and we have it. The next thing is, okay, yeah, there's going to be people who don't want that to, like, not everybody wants everybody healthy. Not everybody wants everybody strong. Not everybody wants everybody educated. And that's just the reality of our world. And not everybody wants everybody rich, and the list goes on. But yeah, it could be some struggles there, but hopefully it's good.
Let me add that to some, because I think there's a way to connect the dots between the two topics we've talked about so far, which is going back to Dre's argument of if we are to eradicate this, like population control is basically removed, and we're bound by our physical space. But I think this is the thing. Going back to that quote I've been sharing recently, that the future already exists. It's just not evenly distributed yet. I think this is where, like, people's lack of knowledge of space is very important, because a lot of the aspirations of these folks like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these other folks in space, the reason why they're doing that is because they see that on the horizon. There's a really good book I recommend y'all check out, but it's called The Next 500 Years, Engineering Life to Reach New Worlds.
I was thinking about 100 years in my mind, but go ahead.
No, so there's this professor. His name is Christopher Mason. And he studies space genetics, specifically what happens to our genes when in space for prolonged periods of time. And he's actually been working on a piece of research with NASA for a while now on the different things we can do to change up our genetics to make sure that humans can survive in space. So I think that's it's those things that people don't understand, that right now we're attacking space from the biology standpoint. Like, we've been attacking space from the hardware standpoint, software standpoint for the last decade or so. Eventually, those things will collide if human beings stay at them long enough. And so I do think it's real, maybe not in our lifetime, but like you got to think that far ahead when thinking of these things.
I'm not gonna lie. I think if all of us in the podcast can live to 100, I'm telling you, this shit is going to be unrecognizable. I'm like to look like I'm telling. I'm like it. It's because it's the exponential part of it. And when I think about population, when I think about population control and stuff like that, valid. And then I think about, okay, cool. Let's say somebody skirted around that, and then now you have these growing populations. Here's the thing: we're noticing, for example, in the United States, at least, that a lot of people are choosing to opt out of having children, or they're waiting longer, or they're not getting, or et cetera. And so those are like, and so there's almost like a data point around. It's almost, I'm not gonna lie to you, certain places that have less resources right now, in the future, will probably be in a really, because they'll have the ability to learn from everybody else. Why did China go this way? Why did America, like, why did they start? Like, there'll be an ability to build off of mistakes of others, which is usually how you want it to go. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but I'm not going to lie to you. If I personally had to guess, and I know it seems it's the typical Black thing to say, but from my actual logic standpoint, I think primarily Africa will be the place that ends up being, or India, or both. But like, I think Africa will probably end up being the place with a lot of, because the fact that the malaria is that bad, that's the problem, that we're so far, like, that lets me know there's so many things. And so
I think Africa is about to leapfrog a lot of people's futures.
Yes, they are. So
in what way?
Hundreds of ways.
How much time?
Like, I'm gonna just give a few, and then I do want to share this one story. But the first way is, I'm just thinking about connectivity. Like, that trend is going to continue to increase, and like eventually most people on that continent will have internet access. The next thing too is, I think people are asleep on the fact that while crypto, et cetera, is dead over here a little bit in the States, that thing is alive and thriving over there in Africa, especially like in places especially on the West Coast, where a lot of those folks are migrating to take on different opportunities educationally or occupationally and sending money back home. Like, because Africa's banking system is so far behind, like centuries behind the United States infrastructure, like there's a potential for them to, and so there's that. Different. Then also you got to think about the fact that like we're transitioning to a renewable source of energy, and Africa has a lot of natural resources for that. I think it was just recently in like South Africa or even like Zimbabwe or something like that, where they found this crazy mine for those materials necessary for batteries, right? And so Africa is ripe with all the different advances of technology to leapfrog a lot of stuff. The things that I think could potentially teeter them is governance.
Corruption, primarily corruption and violence and diseases, I think.
Diseases is being taken off the table. But
as Dre said, not yet. Like, not I hear you. Trust me. I hear you.
But speaking of diseases, this is still in the realm. I thought this was a very interesting story. But yeah, do y'all know how many people worldwide received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine?
Let me see.
I'm gonna say 3 billion.
3 billion.
I'll say a billion.
Okay, a billion. 5.5 billion.
Oh,
so about 72%.
Everybody.
That's about 72% of the world. And the reason why this is important, is because, have y'all heard of Caitlin Carrico?
Nope.
Okay, so she recently won the Nobel Prize in physiology and medicine. And this was specifically for the research she's been doing around mRNA for the past 35 years. And so she first started over at UPenn as a researcher in 1989. During that time, she couldn't get funding, a whole lot of stuff. Like, she even got demoted at Penn. And long story short, come around like the early 2000s, she decided to spin out her company, which basically means when a professor takes their research and try to start a company. And so typically you have to negotiate equity and licensing deals with the tech transfer offices in order to be able to use your research, right? Because you paid for it with the university money. And so she couldn't even get a license.
For the university. You paid for the university.
That's just how the academic, how it's set up.
And they made money off you. Go ahead.
Hold on. I'm about to get to the money because this is very interesting. So going back to it, like we said, 5.5 billion people got the COVID vaccine, right? So homegirl sold her company and the patents she owned on this research for $300,000, right? And so because she didn't have the licenses, like she didn't own this. That mRNA technology that she had developed and she, once again, sold for $300,000, it was sold and licensed by Moderna, BioNTech, literally all the big vaccine providers. So her impact, her research led to 5.5 billion people getting vaccines. She saw $300,000. And literally, because the university was the one who owned it, saw literally upwards of close to $1 billion just from licensing.
Okay.
Who does she sell it to?
It doesn't specifically say.
Wait, and so the university ended up getting some licensing royalties from like Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson, like any of the big pharma companies that use it, they got a royalty from that, and she got nothing.
No,
her at least 50 million.
Hold on, the university sold her patents to a company. The company that then owned her patents sold it to Moderna and all the other vaccines. Basically, Moderna and all them licensed it. So they paid a fee for that specific technology. And that ended up totaling close to $1 billion.
And the crazy thing is, they made it seem like they made it. They made it. It's all we made. Like you bought the tech. You bought the tech. And yes, it's useful. But y'all didn't. You know what I'm saying? Look, they owe her 50 million.
Isn't that pretty common though, Brylan, in the biotech space? Isn't everybody leveraging everybody's work in a way?
Yeah.
And like, how much is this is original anyway, right? Isn't it pretty much all shared and borrowed amongst?
Yeah. It is. I think the interesting thing here is this specifically highlighted the struggle that a lot of professors run into when working with tech transfer offices. For folks that don't know, the tech transfer office is specifically in charge with the commercialization relationship between faculty in universities when it comes to what they call spinning out a company. And so this is the crazy thing. Most academic research, literally from any top university, literally you can probably say, I think the percentage was like 4% of it actually goes on to get turned into like a business.
Yeah.
So that means 96% of all research is just papers.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why that gets in the way is either one, they can't get to terms on equity. That's a huge thing. The other thing too is sometimes the license agreements are too much for the company to be able to pay. And sometimes they just don't have a really good business person to add to the science side of things. And so this is the world.
Is there an opportunity there? Because that seems like a big ocean there, right? Because it seemed like there's so much scientific advancement just trapped in papers. So how do you unlock? Is there opportunity to unlock some of that? Because that seems like a lot of value.
There is an opportunity. I think what it is that it's usually attached with. There's a lot of regulatory stuff around like who can like leverage that research and stuff. Like it's out there.
If you want to leverage that research, you got to go pay the university.
And also like usually you have to have a level of credentials. If it's not, for example, like in tech, like I can just go to GitHub and use Berkeley's whatever, and I can make whatever and profit off of it, whatever. And Berkeley students made it, but that's besides the point. And actually, not besides the point. It's actually similar to the point. But and in tech, it's different in that way. But in a lot of these more regulated places, you can't just take the information and apply it, even if it's out there. It is a big opportunity. I think it's a huge.
Well, I'm just wondering, you just walk into a university. Let's say I had $10 million just sitting around, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna walk to the University of Texas Biolab and say,
Yes.
what do y'all have to license? I got $10 million to spend on
Yeah, you
licensing
can.
shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but I want to
They're selling you
license it.
that.
Bro,
They're selling
if
that.
you
They're
give it
selling
to
you
me.
that.
bro,
And all you
yes.
need to do is hire somebody who has credentials, and then you straight.
Bro, read the book.
Yeah.
Read the book, Building
Say the name of the book.
Backwards.
Building
That's what they
backwards.
do.
Okay.
Building backwards, bro. Building backwards in biotech. Literally, she broke that straight down. That is literally what a ton of these different biotechs that be getting spun up. It be folks who just know sales or whatever, and they literally do that. They partner, as Rodney just said, they partner with an expert to handle the science side, and they could
Yes,
literally go to
exactly.
the university and license the technology.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's similar
crazy.
to like in tech, like having a technical co-founder. Yeah. Except that
Fascinating.
requires like the
Getting
those
ideas.
spaces.
Yeah, I'm like,
I know Andre is.
the next question my mom not even going. I'm like, wait, how expensive are these licensing?
Well,
Here. I'm just curious. I didn't know about this.
what it is that it's probably highly dependent. What's interesting about us as entrepreneurs is that our job is to find underutilized technologies and make them more accessible.
Yeah.
Usually that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so usually like you have smart people that are making all the stuff, but they don't necessarily make it accessible per se or turn it into a practical thing. Those are usually what our jobs are. And yeah. And one day when you have your $50 million, $100 million, I don't know, actually $1 billion exit, you'll be able to go and explore. That's to a lot of the universities.
That'd be great.
Can you imagine walking in and saying, I want that license? We got some things we're going to try with that.
Yeah, we're just going to try it. We don't know what we're doing. We're just going to try it.
I do feel like students, I feel like a lot of these are like doctorate level and they're doing research, clinical trials and because it's in biotech, but it's also in all these other areas, AI, and they're not, and they're doing it for free, yo. They're doing it. I'm like, and as somebody who makes money, man, like, and I'm looking at they paying to go to school, and it's like the college is making it seem like they're doing them favors. And when the reality is, the stuff that they're telling them to do for free or for a low amount is being used for money. You know what I'm saying? For a profit. So you're paying for a profit, but then also doing work that they can also profit off of. And so it can get interesting. Now, I would suggest, but the thing is though, also those institutions, they try to gate a lot of that information too, which is why you got to go to them. They don't want information accessibility if per se. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes
I'm gonna keep it a stack. I just think people don't look. Like it is literally public information. Sure, they don't know how. But it literally is like what I'm realizing. All this information is out there.
Yeah, it is.
It's just an awareness thing. You're just not aware. That is the most expensive thing.
Education is so important.
Awareness.
I boil that down to education, and meaning that people being educated on some of the things that are like that are out there. Because there are a lot of times we are focused on a small set of things, and there's a lot more than we know. And the more that you are curious and learning more stuff, for example, like Brylan's curiosity is unparalleled. So you're like information out there, but you are like a seeker of a lot of information. You are also you're a university graduate, and you'll continue to do a lot of research. And so and then also you have an entrepreneurial spirit, so you can also see the other side of it. Sometimes is that people don't always have both, which is not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people go just a straight salesman. They just like, hey, look, like I see that technology, I can sell that. I don't know what y'all doing with that. I could take that and turn that into. But then there's other people that are like who are building. For example, me and Dre, we have a common friend, and I remember some years ago he's trying to explain to us like crypto, like a lot of things in crypto, and he just couldn't he was like, I knew because I know him and know how smart he is. I know that the information shout out to Noah. I know how smart he is. And I know, but it's like the communication of the technology is not translating to everybody. People it doesn't always translate. Actually, speaking of translating, you got on my ass about the website, about the new Safe website. Because here's the thing. We have a bunch of users that saying they love the product. They're doing novel use cases you've never seen. But we still need to, because it's a new way of doing something, we still need to highlight use cases in a similar way to like how ChatGPT is doing it, because they're also a tool. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, but however you use the tools are always like up to the individual, really. You know, you can use a knife to cut bread, or you use a knife for something else. You know what I'm saying?
Before we go out, have y'all listened to the Drake album? For all my dogs.
Yeah, I
Have y'all
did.
listened to it?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah. Okay. Brylan, what do you want to say, man?
Nah, go ahead, because
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, so I'll be honest. I only listened to it once and I was distracted. I was lost because I was on the mission to do something. So I was like, let me just put it on. And production quality, amazing. Of course, is money behind it, so it's gonna sound amazing. I would have to listen to it again when I'm not distracted. I can't give a fair. There was only one song. It was 7969. I thought it was a very clever play on words of what he was trying to say there. It was super dope, and I'm tapped into the hip hop world and stuff. And so I also there's other stuff. Yeah, but yeah, what y'all think? It was only one song caught my attention, but I was distracted. I'll say that much.
I got 3 of them.
Okay.
So one is
First Person Shooter.
Bahamas.
First Person Shooter.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that
First
was
Person
the
Shooter.
J. Cole one. That was fire.
Cole came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Bahamas Promises. That had some old school Drake feel to it. Like
For real?
his lyrics were just he had this one lyric I had to screenshot. It said, "And for someone you don't miss, I sure feel like somebody you need." Oh my God, Drake. Talk that talk, big fella. And then there was another song,
Yeah.
Fear of Heights. I think he just jumped on this beat and he just started talking that talk. Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah.
And then he had Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, this one was fire too. He had this line. "I want to get back to the days that you love me for nothing but what you could see." Oh my gosh. That nigga spent his last check on your car. You got it and drove it to me.
Yeah.
Talking crazy.
Got it and drove it.
Yeah.
Drake has been on an incredible run, man. For like a decade, just straight, just consistent, non-stop, every single
different.
year.
He needs to take a
That's
break.
different.
I think he needs to take a break.
Yeah, he said I heard he just announced this was gonna be his last album for a little bit. I don't know
good.
how much time. That's
good.
Let
Let me tell you why that's good.
I think he should go. I think he should go dark.
He's
for
lashing
like
out
5 years.
Yeah, because I could tell he's lashing out a little bit, and we don't have to get into all the stuff, but he's not in his strongest. I would say there are certain things that are like that wouldn't normally get to him, and I think it's because he's had like in the last 3 years, what CLB, Her Loss, Honestly Nevermind. You know what I'm saying? For all the dogs, that's most of our favorite rappers that we grew up with. They not coming out with that many albums, and then nowhere. So he's like workaholic.
And the
so
touring. And he's been touring. I feel like every year. I feel like, or he always on tour with somebody.
Yeah. I think
I ain't gonna lie, you making me I gotta go back and read all the album titles just to see if he been playing a trick on us. Because when you read them all off, I was like, damn, them sound like they go together. He has been going through something.
Trust me when I say he needs a break.
Certified Lover Boy, Honestly Nevermind, Her Loss. That sound, don't it?
Yes, no, he needs a break because he needs a break for a few reasons. But honestly, for the first reason, because he deserves it. The first reason is he deserves it. That's the first reason. But also, he's acting a little bit out of character. I want him to be back recharged. You know what I'm saying?
He been going since 2000.
We got enough. We got it. I know. He doesn't want to stop. No, 2006, really, because Room for Improvement. That was the first one. Room for Improvement.
Bro, folks weren't tapped in with MySpace Drake at the time.
Yes.
Damn. So he's been at it for a while. So
he been at this level.
Shout out to Drake. He the #1 streaming artist. And I saw something else that he's passing Michael Jackson, if I believe it or not, for the most #1 singles in history. That's crazy. To pass Michael Jackson anything musically is probably an honor because Michael Jackson is the GOAT.
We've been getting Drake albums for every year since 2015.
Yes.
Nuts.
That's crazy.
That's literally almost almost down there a decade run.
Yeah.
It's almost a decade run.
Yeah.
He might got to give us another 2 just to top it off. That's a
no
run.
Not right now. I think
he got to go dark. He got to go dark for
Yes,
5
Drake.
years. Let the people
Like
miss you.
Kendrick.
You know what I'm saying?
Like Kendrick.
Exactly. Let us miss you for a little bit. Let us marinate on the
You know how
body
bad
before you
music
roast
is
it.
gonna
Yo, right. Look, we were. You know what's crazy, Dre? That you say that. We had Dre. I know you saw this. We're in a group chat. Look, one of our friends was like, "There's a mystic around Drake." I'm like, "What mystic?" There's no mystic. And like, he's posted every day. He's dropping multiple albums. Like, every time I look up, there's no like.
Yeah.
You talk about mystic. I don't even. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
What's the
you
mystic
know,
part?
we know everything. We know everything. It feels,
Yeah.
at least
What's
it
the
feels
mystic?
like that.
Right. So what's the like? There's no mystic. The mystic is Kendrick. We're Kendrick.
Yeah.
What's Kendrick doing? You know what I'm saying?
Or
Cole.
Cole.
Like,
Or Cole.
yeah,
Yeah.
and still can pop up on the first track of his album. So it's I didn't the mystic part. I was like, nah, he been lost the mystic part. I'm with you, Dre. Get back, be mystic, and you know what I'm saying. And then people will appreciate him more. And I think that may
Facts.
actually help him too. Because I think he's lashing out maybe because he feels people are ungrateful or whatever. The work he's put in, all these things. But by doing that, he's getting more criticism because he's lashing out. You know what I'm saying? It's just take the break, stay low if he can. But he was at the top, so I find that hard to let go. He's probably like just hanging on it, like he just can't.
Yeah. Drake is living like a video game character for sure. Like the video game character with all the cheats when you unlock all the money in the game, unlock all the special items. What else is there to do? What else is there to do?
That's why he shouldn't necessarily let go of the game, but maybe he should look into how like Riri and Hov move. You know what I'm saying? That's something I put it like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right, y'all. Yeah, let's wrap it up. That was a good episode.
Awesome episode. Take care, guys.
1